Okay, so in this video we're only going to work on number 3. It says, Chris Locke is a very high-profile, wealthy guest who uses the company's services frequently, and we'd like to have his account readily accessible every time he calls. So we're going to create a macro that will open up the guest form in regular form view and immediately navigate to this guy's record. Let's look at the database here. First of all, this is what the macro is going to do. Let's say this guy calls all the time. We want to be ready. He's an important client of ours. So here's what we would have to do without the macro. Open up the guest form, okay, and it opens up to the first record in the database, which is this generic guest. And then I would have to, if I know his ID, I can get into the guest ID field here and do a search. We do know it's 228, okay, or I could always run a search on the last name if I click in this field. In any case, it took me a few seconds to pull up his record, and we can make it even quicker if we set up a macro to do that. So I'll close up that form, and once again I'll go to the Create tab and create a new macro, okay, and for the action we're going to scroll down and find Open Form. Okay, and the form in question is FRM guest, so I'll select that from the drop-down box. And I said regular form view, so we'll leave that alone, okay, but we do have other options as well. And then we're going to once again use the where condition to find client ID or guest ID number 228. Now before I set that up, I want to look in the guest table and see exactly what that column is called, or that field is called. And it's guest ID, okay, with no space. It's important that you know exactly what the name of the field is. And you know, the caption on this field is guest ID. So if I were to open a report or something like that, or even the form itself, and see, oh, guest ID with a space, that's very misleading, but that's the caption. The actual name of the field is as we saw it in the original table, which is guest ID with no space. So, okay, so we are going to say in our where condition, in square brackets, guest ID, no space, equals, and then here's another thing. All right, we know this guy's number is 228, so I type 228. I'll save the macro, MCR, what was it, something lock, okay? And then when I run it, type mismatch. What's that all about? Here's another thing that I should have checked in the original database, or in the original table, rather. Guest ID, look at the data type. It's text type. Text data always goes in quotes when we're typing it in our criteria. Only numbers don't have quotes, but this is not a number, it's a text type. So I have to be careful of that as well. All right, so if I put my quotes around the 228, save it, we'll run it, and here's his record with just one mouse click. So if I'm the receptionist at the company and this guy calls in, all I have to do is double click this macro in the navigation pane, and there's his record right there.